The corridor stretched endlessly before Do-yun, its walls gleaming with a strange purple light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Two massive guards flanked him, their scaled bodies towering over his human frame. Neither had spoken since they arrived at his quarters an hour ago, simply gesturing for him to follow. Do-hyun clutched his repair kit tighter, the familiar weight of his tools the only comfort in this alien world. He had been aboard the Crimson Talon for 3 months now. 3 months since Earth's government signed the treaty. 3 months since he and dozens of other humans were selected to serve aboard various Vralti vessels. They called it an exchange program, a chance for cultural cooperation. But Do-yun knew the truth. Earth needed the Vralti's protection from other hostile species. And the Vralti needed human expertise in areas their rigid culture had neglected. The guards stopped before a massive door. It was different from the standard metal hatches throughout the ship. This one was carved with intricate patterns, scenes of battles and conquests that seemed to move in the purple light. One guard pressed his palm against a scanner. The door split down the middle, opening silently. "Enter," the guard said in heavily accented human speech. "The Queen Admiral awaits." Do-hyun stepped through, and the door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. His breath caught in his throat. The chamber was enormous. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadow. Weapons lined the walls, hundreds of them, each displayed like art: swords, spears, guns of designs he couldn't comprehend. In the center of the room stood suits of armor on pedestals, each one more elaborate than the last. But what truly captured his attention was the figure standing beside the largest armor display. She was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. Her skin was a deep crimson, covered in natural plating that caught the light like polished gems. 2 main arms crossed over her chest, while the smaller secondary arms rested at her sides. Her face was angular, beautiful in an alien way, with golden eyes that fixed on him with unsettling intensity. She wore simple clothing now, a far cry from the battle armor he'd seen in briefings. "You are the human armor smith," she said. Her voice was deep, melodic, and carried absolute authority. "Do-yun." "Yes, Your Highness," he managed, bowing as he'd been instructed during orientation. "Queen Admiral," she corrected, but not unkindly. "Highness is for those who merely inherit power. I earned my title in blood." She gestured to the damaged armor beside her. "Can you repair this?" Do-hyun approached cautiously. The armor was a masterpiece. Each plate overlapped perfectly, designed to provide maximum protection while allowing fluid movement. But a massive gash ran through the chest piece, the metal twisted and scorched. He ran his fingers along the damage, feeling the texture, the composition. "What caused this?" he asked, then immediately regretted his boldness. "I apologize. I shouldn't—" "A plasma lance," Velrisa interrupted, moving closer. She smelled like ozone and something spicy he couldn't identify. "During the battle at the Korvax Nebula, the pirate lord thought he could challenge me directly." She made a sound that might have been laughter. "He was wrong." Do-yun examined the damage more carefully. The metal was unlike anything on Earth. Lighter than aluminum, but stronger than titanium. It had memory properties, trying to return to its original shape despite the damage. "I can repair it," he said finally. "But it will take time. This alloy is complex. I'll need to heat it precisely, reshape it gradually, and then reseal the molecular bonds. If I rush it, the entire piece will be compromised." Velrisa studied him for a long moment. Those golden eyes seemed to see through him, reading thoughts he didn't know he had. "The other smiths aboard this vessel said it couldn't be repaired, that I should forge a new piece." "They're probably right," Do-yun admitted. "It would be easier, faster. But this armor has history. Battle scars tell a story. I can preserve that story while making it whole again." Something shifted in her expression. Her secondary arms unfolded, a gesture he'd learned meant interest or approval. "You understand," she said softly. "Most see armor as merely protective equipment. You see it as something more." On Earth, master craftsmen used to sign their work. They took pride in creation, even in things made for war. Each piece was unique, individual. I learned from that tradition. Velrisa walked to a table and poured liquid from a crystal container into 2 cups. She offered one to Do-hyun. He took it hesitantly. The liquid inside was thick, almost glowing with a soft blue light. "Do you miss your world?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. He'd expected orders, technical discussions, not personal conversation. "Sometimes," he said honestly. "I miss the sky. Real sky. Not the simulated one in the human quarters. I miss rain. The smell of forge fires in the workshop where I learned my trade." "Why did you come then? Humans were not forced. You volunteered." Do-hyun sipped the liquid. It tasted like honey mixed with starlight, if starlight had a flavor. Warmth spread through his chest. "Earth was becoming small for me," he said. "I'd mastered everything my teachers could show me. I wanted to learn new techniques, work with new materials. When the recruitment officer showed us Vralthi metallurgy, I knew I had to come." "So you came for knowledge, not honor or wealth." "Knowledge is its own wealth." Velrisa made that sound again, the one that might be laughter. She sat on a bench that groaned under her weight, gesturing for him to sit as well. He did, maintaining a respectful distance. "My people do not think like this," she said. "We value strength, conquest, loyalty to the empire. Art for art's sake is considered frivolous, weak, but sometimes I see our weapons, our ships, and I think they are cold. Functional, but soulless." "Beauty and function aren't enemies," Do-hyun said. "The best weapons in human history were both deadly and beautiful. A samurai sword that could cut through armor but was balanced so perfectly it felt weightless. Armor engraved with prayers and symbols that gave the wearer confidence, which made them fight better." "Show me," Velrisa said suddenly, standing. "Begin the repairs now. I want to watch how humans work." Do-hyun set down his cup and opened his repair kit. His tools looked primitive next to the advanced technology around him, but they'd been specially designed for working with alien metals. He activated his portable forge, a compact fusion unit that could reach incredible temperatures in a controlled space. As he worked, heating the damaged metal carefully, Velrisa watched in silence. He could feel her gaze on him, studying every movement. It should have made him nervous, but instead he found himself falling into the meditative state that always came with creation. The rest of the universe faded away. There was only the metal, the heat, the gradual transformation from broken to whole. Time passed. How much? He couldn't say. Finally, he stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "That's enough for today," he said. "The metal needs to cool slowly. If I continue now, I'll create stress fractures." Velrisa approached the armor. The gash was smaller now, the twisted metal straightened, though still clearly damaged. "Fascinating," she murmured. "You work with patience. Vralthi smiths would have forced the metal to obey. You coax it. Metal has memory. It wants to return to what it was. I just help it remember." She turned to him, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a small thing, barely visible, but it transformed her face. "You will return tomorrow," she said. It wasn't a question. "Same time. Continue the work." "Yes, Queen Admiral." As the guards escorted him back through the endless corridors, Do-hyun's mind raced. The most powerful being on the ship had asked him about Earth, about his dreams, about art. She'd shared a drink with him, watched him work with genuine interest. He didn't know what it meant, But something had changed in that chamber, something that felt important, though he couldn't yet name it. The other humans would have questions. Jiwan especially would worry, would warn him about getting too close to the aliens, about the dangers of attracting attention from those in power. But as Do-yun lay in his bunk that night, staring at the metal ceiling, he couldn't stop thinking about those golden eyes, about the way Velrisa had said his name, pronouncing each syllable carefully, like it mattered. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. The human quarters were cramped compared to the rest of the ship. 30 humans shared a space meant for comfort rather than luxury. But it was theirs, and that made it home. Do-hyun barely made it through the door before Jiwan pounced on him. 6 hours, his friend said, blocking his path. You were gone for 6 hours. The guards came back alone and wouldn't tell anyone anything. We thought you were dead. Jiwan was small for a human, especially next to the towering Vralti, but she had the fierce spirit of someone who'd fought for every opportunity. As a medical technician, she'd seen things that would break most people. Nothing scared her, except, apparently, the thought of losing her friends. I'm fine, Do-yun said, squeezing past her to his bunk. I was repairing armor. For 6 hours? What kind of armor? The Queen Admiral's. Her battle armor. It's damaged and I'm fixing it. The room went silent. Every human turned to stare at him. You're working directly for her? Someone whispered. For Velrisa herself? It's just repair work, Do-yun said, uncomfortable with the attention. Nothing special. Everything about her is special, Jiwon said quietly, sitting beside him. Do you know what the Vralthi call her? The Blood Queen. She's won 14 major battles, killed 3 challengers to her throne in single combat. There are stories about what happens to people who displease her. She was kind to me, Do-yun said. We talked. She asked about Earth. Jiwon grabbed his arm. Listen to me carefully. The last 3 attendants who served her personally, they disappeared, reassigned without warning, and no one knows where they went. Be careful, Do-yun, please. He wanted to argue, to tell her about the conversation, the shared drink, the smile. But doubt crept in. What did he really know about Velrisa? One pleasant conversation didn't mean he understood her. She was an alien queen who commanded a warship. He was a craftsman from a planet that had barely achieved faster than light travel. That night, he dreamed of golden eyes and metal that wouldn't bend. The next day, the guards came again. This time, Do-hyun was ready. He'd prepared his tools, studied the armor's composition, made notes on techniques he wanted to try. The walk to her quarters felt shorter, more familiar. Velrisa was waiting, but this time she wore partial armor. The leg pieces, arm guards, and shoulder plates all perfectly fitted to her unique physiology. She was practicing combat forms, moving through strikes and blocks with fluid grace. Her 4 arms worked in perfect coordination, each one independent, yet part of a greater whole. Watch, she said when she noticed him. She didn't stop moving. This is the 7th form of Kathara. It is taught to all warriors, but mastered by few. Do-yun watched, mesmerized. She moved like water, like fire, like something that couldn't be stopped or contained. The armor enhanced her movements, responding to her body like a second skin. When she finally stopped, she wasn't even breathing hard. Your armor allows you to move like that? He asked. The armor follows. It does not lead. A warrior in armor they don't trust will hesitate. Hesitation means death. She began removing the arm guards. Come, continue your work. As he worked, she talked. She told him about her training, about the wars she'd fought, about the pressure of leadership. Her people expected perfection. Any sign of weakness, and rivals would challenge her position. She'd killed the last challenger 3 years ago. A cousin who thought her focus on military innovation made her soft. Was he right? Do-yun asked. carefully reshaping a section of the chest plate. "Does innovation make you soft?" "He's dead and I'm alive," she said. "That is the only answer that matters in my culture. But what do you think?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I think rigidity breaks under pressure. Flexibility survives. But I cannot say this to my people. They would see it as weakness." Do-hyun understood loneliness in that moment. She was surrounded by thousands of crew members, feared and respected, but utterly alone. No one she could speak honestly with. No one who could see past the armor to the person beneath. "On Earth," he said slowly, "we have a saying. The hardest steel is forged in the hottest fire, but if it's not tempered properly, it shatters. Strength without flexibility is brittle." "Tempered," she repeated. "I like this word. What does it mean exactly?" He explained the process of heating and cooling metal to improve its properties. She listened with intense focus, asking questions that showed genuine understanding. When he mentioned that the process required patience and precise timing, she laughed that strange laugh again. "Perhaps I am being tempered now," she said. "These conversations, they are the cooling process that prevents shattering." Something warm bloomed in Do-hyun's chest. He tried to ignore it, focusing on his work. But when he completed a particularly difficult section, he did something without thinking. He etched a small design into the inner surface of the plate, a pattern of interlocking circles, traditional Earth symbolism for strength through unity. Velrisa saw it immediately. "What is this?" "A signature," he said, suddenly worried he'd overstepped. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" "No." She traced the pattern with one clawed finger. "Explain it to me." He told her about the symbolism, about how human craftsmen throughout history had left marks on their work. Not from pride, but as a promise. "This was made with care. This will protect you. This matters." "Your people put meaning into everything," she said softly. "Even things others will never see." She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw something he couldn't name. "This is a gift. I will treasure it." The days blurred together after that. Each morning, the guards came. Each day, he worked on her armor while they talked. She showed him Vralthi weapons, explaining their history and design. He showed her pictures of Earth, describing places he'd been, things he'd created. She began asking for his opinion on tactical matters, curious about human approaches to problem solving. "Humans are so small," she said once. "Fragile. Yet you have survived predators, diseases, wars." "How?" "We adapt," Do-hyun said. "We can't outrun a predator, so we build tools. We can't survive harsh weather, so we build shelters. We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we're creative. We survive by thinking differently." "Creativity as survival," she mused. "My people see creativity as luxury, something for peacetime. But you see it as necessity." "The cave paintings on Earth are over 40,000 years old," he said. "Humans were painting while they were still hunting with stone tools. Art isn't what we do when we're safe. It's how we make sense of danger. How we pass knowledge. How we connect." She was silent for a long time after that. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I envy you this. To be part of a culture that values beauty alongside strength." "You could create it," Do-hyun said. "You're the Queen Admiral. You set the tone for your people." "It is not so simple. There are traditions, expectations. The noble houses watch my every move, waiting for mistakes. If I show too much interest in alien ways, they will say I'm betraying our heritage." "Are you?" he asked boldly. "No." She stood, and suddenly she was the warrior queen again, all authority and power. "I am expanding it. There is a difference." She walked to a console and activated a hologram. Star maps filled the air between them. "Look, this is the Empire. 17 systems. 300 colonized worlds. We conquered them all through military might. But holding them, that requires more than strength. It requires understanding, adaptation. You're thinking long-term, Do-hyun said, understanding dawning. Your people see you as a war leader, but you're trying to be more. A war leader who cannot secure peace is just a destroyer, she said. I want my people to survive for millennia, not just decades. That means change, but change is dangerous. Do-hyun returned to his work, but his mind churned. Velrisa wasn't just a warrior. She was a reformer, trying to guide her species into a new age. And she was doing it alone, without support or understanding from her own kind. The weight of that responsibility must be crushing. As he packed his tools that evening, Velrisa stopped him. Tomorrow, wear your best clothes, she said. There is a ceremony, a formality, but I want you there. Me? Why? Because I choose it, she said simply. That is reason enough. When Do-hyun returned to the human quarters, Ji-won was waiting. You're different, she said, studying his face. Something changed. I'm fine. That's what worries me. She grabbed his hand. I did some asking around, talked to some of the more friendly Vralthi. Those attendants who disappeared, they weren't killed or punished. They were reassigned because they requested it. They couldn't handle being close to her. The pressure, the politics, the constant scrutiny, one of them had a breakdown. Ji-won, I know that look in your eyes, she continued. You care about her. But she's not human, Do-hyun. She's a queen, a warrior. Her world operates on rules we don't understand. Please, just be careful. Don't let yourself get hurt. He wanted to argue, but instead he just squeezed her hand and nodded. Because she was right. He was starting to care, and in the vast darkness of space, aboard an alien warship, surrounded by beings who could kill him without effort, caring for someone like Velrisa was the most dangerous thing he could possibly do. But that night, as he stared at the ceiling again, he realized something. Dangerous didn't mean wrong, and sometimes the most important things required the most risk. Do-hyun had never owned formal clothing suitable for an alien military ceremony. He wore his cleanest work clothes and hoped it would be acceptable. When the guards arrived, they looked him over and said nothing, which he took as approval, or indifference. With the Vralthi, it was hard to tell. The ceremony was held in the main assembly hall. Hundreds of Vralthi warriors stood in perfect formation, their armor gleaming under harsh white lights. Do-hyun was led to a position near the front, off to the side. The other humans were nowhere to be seen. He was alone in a sea of aliens. Velrisa entered to the sound of drums. She wore her full battle armor now, completely repaired. Do-hyun felt a surge of pride seeing his work displayed before the entire crew. The armor caught the light beautifully, each plate moving in perfect harmony as she walked. She'd had it polished, and the hidden design he'd etched on the inside was his secret, invisible to everyone else, but known to her. The ceremony was long and formal. Commendations were given. Promotions announced. Warriors stepped forward to recite oaths of loyalty. Do-hyun understood maybe half of what was said. The Vralthi language was complex, full of subtle meanings that the translation devices struggled with. Then Velrisa spoke his name. Every head turned toward him, hundreds of golden eyes fixed on the small human standing awkwardly at the side of the room. His heart hammered in his chest. Do-hyun of Earth, Velrisa's voice echoed through the hall. Approach! His legs felt weak, but he walked forward. The crowd parted for him. He stopped before the raised platform where she stood, trying to remember the proper bow. She descended the steps, moving until she stood directly before him. Even in his fear, he noticed how perfectly her armor moved. His work, his hands had shaped that metal. This human has proven his value, she announced to the assembly. His skill with metalwork surpasses our own smiths. He repaired my armor, which others said was impossible. She held up a small metal disc. By the authority of my rank and bloodline, I place him under my personal protection. Any who harm him answer to me directly. She pressed the disc to his chest. It adhered to his clothing, warm against his skin. A murmur rippled through the crowd, some approving, some clearly not. "This is unprecedented," a voice called out. Do-Yun recognized Commander Thralven, Velrisa's second-in-command. He was massive even for a Vralthi, scarred and battle-hardened. A human given noble protection? What message does this send? It sends the message that competence is valued above species, Velrisa said coldly. "Do you question my judgment, Commander?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Thralven bowed his head. "No, Queen Admiral. I merely seek to understand." "Then understand this. The Empire grows or it dies. Growth requires new thinking." Dismissed. The ceremony ended. Warriors filed out, many casting long looks at Do-Yun, some curious, some hostile. He touched the disc on his chest, feeling its weight. Protection from the Queen Admiral herself. Jiwan was going to panic. "Come," Velrisa said to him quietly. "We have work to do." Back in her quarters, she immediately began removing her armor. This time was different. She needed his help. The battle armor was designed to be put on with assistance, and taking it off was the same. She directed him to release catches, loosen straps, disconnect power cells that fed the enhanced systems. It meant working close to her, very close. Do-Yun tried to maintain professional distance, but it was impossible. To reach the upper back plates, he had to stand nearly pressed against her. He could feel the heat radiating from her body, smell that strange, spicy scent that clung to her skin. His hands trembled slightly as he worked the catches. "You're hesitating," she said. "Why?" "I don't want to hurt you, or damage the armor." "You've repaired every inch of this armor. You know it better than anyone. Don't be shy, human." She looked over her shoulder at him, and there was something in those golden eyes, something that made his breath catch. "Your hands have skill. Use them." He swallowed hard and continued working. The armor came away piece by piece, revealing the clothing beneath. Simple, practical, but it showed the powerful muscles of her body, the natural plating that covered her like scales. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards. Beautiful like a sword was beautiful, dangerous and perfect. When the last piece was removed, she turned to face him. They were closer than they'd ever been. He had to tilt his head back to meet her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "Not just for the armor, for everything." "I should thank you," Do-Yun managed. "That ceremony, the protection. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." She walked to her table and poured 2 cups of the glowing liquid. "Sit with me. There is something I need to tell you." They sat. Do-Yun waited, his heart still racing from the intimacy of removing her armor. "I chose you deliberately," Velrisa began, "not randomly. Before you came aboard, I reviewed files on every human in the exchange program. Engineers, doctors, technicians, teachers. I read about your work on Earth, the sculptures you created, functional art, they called it, blades that were also beautiful, armor that told stories. You knew about me before I arrived. I requested you specifically." She took a long drink. "Do you know what it's like to be surrounded by people who fear you, who see only your rank, your power, your capacity for violence? Every conversation is measured, every word calculated. No one speaks honestly to me. No one sees past the armor." "I'm sorry," Do-Yun said quietly. "Don't be. It is the price of power. But when I read about you, about your philosophy of craftsmanship, I thought perhaps here is someone who might see differently. An outsider who doesn't know to be afraid. Someone who values creation over destruction. Is that what you want? Someone who's not afraid of you? I want someone who sees me, she said, and the vulnerability in her voice shocked him. Not the queen, not the admiral, not the warrior who has killed hundreds in battle, just me. Velrisa, a person who feels trapped by her own success. Do-hyun set down his cup. I do see you. From that first day, I've seen you. You're brilliant and lonely and trying so hard to change things for your people. You care deeply, even though you can't show it. You want to create something lasting, not just win battles. I see all of that. How? She asked. How can you see what my own people miss? Because I'm not looking at a queen, he said. I'm looking at someone who understands what it means to pour yourself into your work, to care about details no one else notices. That's what I do every time I shape metal. I see the same thing in you. She reached out with one of her primary hands and touched his face. Her palm was warm, rough with calluses. He should have pulled away. Should have remembered that she was an alien, a queen, someone so far above his station it was absurd. But he didn't move. On my world, she said slowly, there are expectations. I am the last of my bloodline. The nobles want me to choose a mate, produce heirs, secure the succession. They have presented candidates, strong warriors, clever strategists, wealth and power incarnate. That sounds like a good thing, Do-hyun said, though the words felt like ash in his mouth. They bore me, she said bluntly. Every one of them sees me as a prize to be won, a stepping stone to greater power. None of them care about art or creation or the questions that keep me awake at night. None of them would sit with me and talk about the meaning behind a simple decoration on armor. What are you saying? She pulled her hand back, stood, and walked to the viewport. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the transparent metal. I am saying that I find myself drawn to someone I shouldn't be. Someone from a species we barely understand. Someone who has no power, no status, no political value. Someone who is completely inappropriate by every standard my culture holds. Do-hyun stood as well. His legs felt weak again, but for a completely different reason than fear. I'm drawn to you too, from the start. But I didn't think that an alien queen would want a human craftsman. She laughed, but there was pain in it. Neither did I, yet here we are. What do we do? I don't know. She turned to face him. The nobles are pressuring me. If I don't choose a mate soon, they will start making political moves, challenging my authority. There are factions that already see me as too radical, too willing to work with other species. If they knew about this, she gestured between them. Then we stop, Do-hyun said, though the words hurt. I'll request reassignment. Go to another ship. You can choose one of your candidates and secure your position. Is that what you want? No, he said honestly. But I don't want to be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. Velrisa closed the distance between them in 2 strides. She towered over him, and for a moment he saw the warrior that had killed 3 challengers. Then her expression softened. What if I don't want to choose them? She said. What if I want something my people would never accept? What if I'm tired of doing what's expected? Then you'd need someone willing to face that with you, Do-hyun said. Someone who knows the danger, but cares more about you than about being safe. Are you that person? He thought about Ji-won's warnings, about the disappeared attendants, about the political machinations of an alien empire he didn't understand, about how easy it would be to get hurt, or worse, in this situation. Then he thought about Velrisa's smile, about her questions, about the way she listened when he talked about Earth, as if his words were precious things. Yes, he said. I think I am. A klaxon wailed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Velrisa's expression changed instantly from vulnerable to commanding. Battle stations, she said, reading a display on her wrist. Pirates! They're attacking a colony transport. She strode to her armor. Help me put this on, quickly. Do-hyun moved without thinking. They'd practiced this now, the reverse of removal. Each piece locked into place, each system activated. She was transforming before his eyes from person to weapon. The improved mobility systems, she said as he secured the chest plate. They'll hold? I tested them 3 times. They'll hold. She grabbed a massive sword from the wall. Stay here. If something happens to me, nothing will happen to you, he said firmly. That armor is perfect. I made sure of it. She looked at him one last time. Then she was gone, running toward the combat deck, leaving him alone in her quarters with the stars and his racing heart. The ship shuddered. Do-hyun grabbed the table to keep from falling. He'd been through drills, but never actual combat. The violence of it was shocking. The Crimson Talon was massive, a fortress in space, but the impacts of weapons fire made it shake like it was made of paper. He should have returned to the human quarters. That was protocol. But Velrisa had told him to stay, and he found himself unable to leave. This was her space, her sanctuary. If something happened to her, he wanted to be here. The viewport showed the battle unfolding. The colony transport was a bloated civilian vessel, slow and barely armed. 3 pirate ships circled it like predators, smaller but quick and heavily armed. The Crimson Talon was moving to intercept, but space combat wasn't like the movies. Distances were vast. Everything took time. A communication panel on the wall crackled to life. Do-hyun had no idea how to use it, but he heard Velrisa's voice cutting through the static. All warriors to boarding craft. We take them before they breach the transport. Commander Thralvin, you have the ship. I'm leading the assault personally. Queen Admiral, Thralven's voice responded. Let the warriors handle this. Your presence on the front line is unnecessary risk. My presence on the front line is exactly what the warriors need to see. The Blood Queen doesn't hide while her people fight. Prepare my boarding craft. The communication cut off. Do-hyun's hands were shaking. She was going into direct combat. Boarding actions were the most dangerous part of space warfare. Close quarters, no retreat, enemies on all sides. Minutes crawled by. The viewport showed the Crimson Talon's smaller craft launching, streaking toward the pirate vessels. Weapons fire lit up the darkness like lightning. One pirate ship exploded, debris scattering. The transport was maneuvering now, trying to create distance, but it was too slow. Another explosion. Closer this time. The ship shook so hard Do-hyun was thrown to the floor. Alarms were screaming. The lights flickered. Then a voice on the communication panel, but not Velrisa. A warrior, panicked. The Queen Admiral is hit. Her armor is breached. Life support is failing. Do-hyun's blood turned to ice. He staggered to the communication panel, trying to figure out the alien controls. Nothing worked. He slammed his fist against the metal in frustration. Do-hyun! A weak voice from a smaller speaker. A private channel. Can you hear me? Velrisa, what happened? Plasma, grenade, close, range, chest plate cracked, life support, damage. Her breathing was labored, painful. Can't fix it. His mind raced. The armor's life support systems. He'd studied them, repaired them. He knew every component, every connection. Listen to me. Can you access the manual override? It's under the left arm, small panel. Can't reach. Other arm, broken. Someone near you. Get them to... They're fighting. Can't. Distract them. She coughed, and the sound was wet. Do-hyun, I'm sorry. Wanted more time. No. He grabbed the panel. No, you listen to me right now. The override has a backup, behind your neck. Can you reach that? Maybe. Do it, now. Feel for a small hexagonal panel. Press the center and twist clockwise. He heard her breathing hard, the sounds of combat in the background, weapons fire, shouting in the Vralthi language. Then a click. "Got it," she gasped. "Good. Now you'll see 3 tubes. The middle one is atmosphere mix. It'll have a red connector. Pull it out and reattach it to the blue socket. It'll bypass the damaged regulator. Red to blue? Yes. Quickly." More sounds of struggle. He couldn't see what was happening. Could only imagine her fighting for each breath, trying to make her wounded body follow instructions, surrounded by enemies. "Done," she finally said. Her voice was stronger. "Breathing. Easier." The crack in the chest plate. How big? "Size of my hand. Use your emergency sealant. It's in the right thigh compartment. Spray it over the crack. It'll harden and hold pressure temporarily." Clever. Human. He heard the hiss of the sealant. "It's working. Now get out of there. You've done enough." "Not yet. The pirate captain, still alive. If I don't finish this, they'll attack other transports. Velrisa, I trust your repairs. The armor will hold. It has to." The communication cut off. Do-Yun stood there, staring at the panel, feeling utterly helpless. She was out there fighting with damaged armor held together by emergency repairs. One good hit and the sealant would fail. She could die. The human quarters felt like a different universe. Everyone was gathered around the main display, watching what footage the ship's systems would share. When Do-Hyun entered, Ji-won pulled him aside. "Where were you? We've been searching everywhere." "The Queen Admiral's quarters. I was helping with the armor." "During a battle? Do-Hyun, that's—" She stopped. "Wait, helping how?" "Her life support failed. I talked her through emergency repairs over the communication system." Ji-won's eyes went wide. "You saved her life." "I don't know if—" "Look." She pointed at the display. The feed showed the inside of a pirate ship. The quality was poor, clearly from a helmet camera of one of the boarding warriors. But there in the center was Velrisa. Her armor was scorched, the chest plate visibly damaged, sealant foam hardening across the crack. She fought like a force of nature, 4 arms moving in perfect coordination, her sword singing through the air. The pirate captain was massive, even bigger than her, covered in mechanical augments. He wielded 2 axes, each one trailing energy fields. They clashed in the narrow corridor, and the impact shook the camera. Velrisa was injured, her armor damaged, but she was faster. The improvements Do-Hyun had made to the mobility systems gave her an edge. She flowed around the pirates' strikes, her movements enhanced by the perfectly calibrated servos. One of his axes passed close enough to scrape her armor. Her sword found his throat. The pirate captain fell. The surrounding pirates dropped their weapons. In Vralti culture, killing the leader meant victory. The battle was over. The human quarters erupted in cheers. Someone clapped Do-Hyun on the back. Ji-won hugged him tightly. "She won," she said. "You both did." An hour later, the guards came for him. The whole human section watched as he was escorted away. Jo-won gave him a look that said, "Be careful and good luck, and I told you so all at once." Velrisa was in her quarters, still in her armor. Medical technicians swarmed around her, but she waved them away when Do-Hyun entered. "Out," she ordered. "All of you, now." They left quickly. The door sealed. She and Do-Hyun were alone. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she reached up and removed her helmet. Her face was scratched, blood crusting at the corner of her mouth, but she was smiling. "You saved me," she said simply. "I just told you what to do. You did the work." "No." She moved closer, each step deliberate despite her obvious pain. "You knew exactly what to do. Under pressure, with my life in danger, you didn't panic. You knew my armor better than I do. You proved something today." "What did I prove?" "That I was right to trust you." She touched his face with one hand, and he didn't pull away. "That you see me not as a queen or a warrior, but as someone you care enough about to save." "Of course I'd save you." Not everyone would. Some would see an opportunity, a chance for the Queen Admiral to fall in battle, creating chaos they could exploit. But you didn't hesitate. Do-Yun helped her remove the damaged armor. The chest plate came away to reveal torn clothing beneath and a nasty bruise spreading across her side. She winced, but didn't cry out. "You need the medical technicians," he said. "Later. Right now, I need this." She sat heavily on her bench. "I need someone who I don't have to perform for." He sat beside her, closer than before. Close enough that their shoulders touched. "I was terrified," he admitted, "hearing you hurt, not being able to help more than just talking. I've never felt that helpless." "Welcome to how I feel every day," she said quietly. "Sending warriors into battle, knowing some won't return, making decisions that get people killed, the weight of every life that depends on me. That's different. That's leadership. Is it? Or is it just caring about someone and being unable to protect them perfectly?" She turned to look at him. "I realized something today. When that plasma grenade hit, when I thought I might die, my last thought wasn't about the Empire or my duty or my legacy. It was about you, about not getting to finish our conversation, about all the things I wanted to say but hadn't. Vel Risa, I know this is complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't, but I'm tired of shouldn't. I've spent my entire life doing what I should do. Just once, I want to do what I want to do. What do you want?" "You," she said. "Here, with me. However we can make that work." Do-Hyun took her hand, her four-fingered hand that had killed so many but held his so gently. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." She leaned against him and he felt the weight of her, solid and real. She smelled like smoke and blood and that strange spice. She was alien and dangerous, and impossibly above his station. She was also warm and vulnerable and looking at him like he was the answer to a question she'd been asking her whole life. "Together," she repeated. "I like that word." They sat there while the ship hummed around them. Outside, the colony transport was being escorted to safety. The pirate threat was eliminated. The Crimson Talon would continue its patrol. But in this moment, in this room, none of that mattered. There was only a queen who'd taken off her armor and a craftsman who'd helped her survive. Two people from different worlds finding something neither expected. Tomorrow would bring complications, politics, judgment, challenges, but tomorrow was tomorrow. Tonight, they had this, and maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. The story of the battle spread through the ship like fire. How the Queen Admiral had boarded a pirate vessel with damaged armor. How she'd killed their captain despite her injuries. How a human had guided her through emergency repairs over a communication channel. By the next morning, every crew member knew Do-Hyun's name. The reactions were divided. Some warriors approached him in the corridors, offering nods of respect. One even pressed a small token into his hand, a traditional Vralthi gesture of gratitude. "You protected our queen," the warrior said simply. "We are in your debt." But others looked at him with cold suspicion. He caught whispered conversations that stopped when he passed. Once he turned a corner and found 3 warriors blocking his path. They didn't say anything, just stared until he found another route. Ji-won found him in the human quarters that evening. "We need to talk." They went to a quiet corner, away from the others. "The Vralthi are talking," she said. "Some see you as a hero, others see you as a threat. Do you understand what's happening? You're becoming important, visible. That's dangerous when you're caught in the middle of their politics." "I'm just an armor smith." "No," Ji-won said firmly. "You're the human who has the Queen Admiral's favor. That makes you a piece on their game board. People will try to use you, or eliminate you. Vel Risa won't let that happen." Velrisa can't be everywhere at once. Jiwan grabbed his shoulders. Promise me you'll be careful. Watch what you say. Don't trust anyone you don't absolutely have to. He promised, though he wasn't sure how much good it would do. The situation was already beyond his control. 2 days later, Velrisa summoned him. But this time it wasn't to her private quarters. It was to the formal assembly hall, the same place where she'd given him her protection. The hall was filled again, but the atmosphere was different, tense, expectant. At the far end, a hologram shimmered into existence. Figures appeared, massive and imposing. Do-hyun recognized the style of their armor from historical displays. These were nobles, the ruling class of the Vralthi Empire. Velrisa stood before them, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked uncomfortable. Queen Admiral Velrisa, one of the holograms spoke. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying automatic authority. We have received concerning reports about your conduct. High Lord Kramvex, Velrisa responded, her voice neutral. What concerns you? Your growing attachment to the humans aboard your vessel. Specifically one human, this Do-hyun. The hologram's eyes found him in the crowd. Even through the projection, the gaze was intense. We are told you have elevated him beyond his station, given him access to your private quarters, relied on his counsel. He is an exceptional craftsman. His skills have proven valuable. Valuable enough to risk propriety? Another hologram spoke, this one female. We have been patient, Velrisa. You have delayed choosing a mate for 3 cycles. The bloodline must continue. You know this. I am aware of my duty. Then why do you not fulfill it? Kramvex leaned forward. We have presented suitable candidates, warriors of proven strength, strategists of keen mind. Any would be an appropriate consort, yet you refuse them all. Because I choose carefully, Velrisa said, as is my right. Your right is not unlimited, the female noble said. The noble houses grow restless. If you do not choose soon, we will be forced to convene a council to discuss whether perhaps you are unfit to continue as Queen Admiral. The threat hung in the air. Murmurs rippled through the assembled warriors. Do-hyun felt his blood run cold. They were threatening to remove her from power. Velrisa's expression didn't change, but Do-hyun had learned to read the subtle signs. The tension in her shoulders, the way her secondary arms twitched slightly. She was furious. I have won 14 major victories, she said, each word precise and cutting. I have expanded the Empire's influence into 3 new sectors. I have modernized our fleet and integrated new technologies that have made us the dominant military power in this region. And you question my fitness to lead? We question your judgment, Kramvex said. A leader who cannot secure her own line is a liability. Personal desires must be set aside for the greater good. I have given everything for the Empire, my childhood, my freedom. My life has been one long march of duty. And now you tell me I must also surrender my choice of partner. You are not surrendering anything. You are accepting responsibility. The female noble's voice softened slightly. We understand that command is lonely, but you cannot allow that loneliness to cloud your judgment. This human, whatever his skills, is not appropriate. Surely you see that. Do-hyun wanted to disappear. Every eye in the hall was on him now, some pitying, some angry. He was the cause of this confrontation, the proof of Velrisa's supposed poor judgment. The human's name is Do-hyun, Velrisa said coldly, and he has proven himself more valuable than any of your suggested candidates. Value is not the same as suitability, Kramvex said. You have 1 lunar cycle. Choose a proper mate or face the council. This discussion is over. The holograms vanished. The hall erupted in whispered conversations. Velrisa stood rigid for a moment, then turned and left through a side door. Commander Thralven stepped forward. "All personnel, dismissed," he ordered. The crowd began to disperse. Do-Yun tried to follow Velrisa, but a massive hand landed on his shoulder. "Thralven, we need to talk, human." They went to a small strategy room. Maps of star systems covered the walls. Thralven closed the door and turned to face him. The commander was intimidating even by Viralthi standards. Scars covered his arms. One eye was artificial, glowing with a faint red light. "Do you understand what just happened?" Thralven asked. "They threatened her position. They declared war, political war, but war nonetheless, and you are the weapon they will use against her." "I never wanted—" "What you want is irrelevant." Thralven paced the room. "I have served Velrisa for 12 cycles. I have watched her sacrifice everything for the Empire. She is the finest leader I have ever known, and she is being destroyed because of you." The words hit like physical blows. "What do you want me to do?" "Leave. Request reassignment to another ship. Disappear from her life. Give her the space to choose an appropriate mate and secure her position." "She wouldn't want that." "Of course she wouldn't. She's too stubborn, too idealistic. She actually believes she can change centuries of tradition because she wants something different." Thralven stopped pacing and stared at him. "But you're human. You can be practical. You can see that staying will only hurt her more." Do-Hyun met the commander's gaze. "You're wrong about one thing. She's not being destroyed because of me. She's being attacked because she's trying to evolve the Empire beyond its rigid traditions. I'm just the excuse they're using. If it wasn't me, they'd find something else." "Perhaps. But without you as ammunition, their attack would be weaker. Or maybe with me, she has something worth fighting for. Something that shows her people that change is possible." Thralven was quiet for a long moment. "You care about her?" "Yes. Enough to see her lose everything? Enough to help her fight for what she believes in, if that's what she wants." The commander turned away. "I don't know if you're brave or stupid, but I will tell you this. If you hurt her, if you make this worse, I will personally throw you out an airlock. Clear?" "Clear." Do-Hyun found Velrisa in her quarters hours later. She was standing at the viewport, still in full armor, staring at the stars. "You should have stayed away," she said without turning. "They'll be watching. Every moment we spend together now will be used against me." "I don't care." "You should." She finally turned. "Did you hear what they said? 1 lunar cycle. Then they convene a council that could strip my rank, my title, of everything I've worked for. Then we have a lunar cycle to figure out what to do. There is no we, not in a way they would accept." She moved to her armor display and began removing pieces. "I am a queen of a warrior race. You are a craftsman from a species they see as weak. By every law and tradition of my people, we are impossible." "Earlier you said you were tired of impossible," Do-Yun said, "that you wanted to choose for yourself." That was before I understood the price. She dropped the chest plate onto its stand with more force than necessary. "They will destroy me, Do-Hyun. Not quickly. They'll start by questioning my decisions, challenging my authority. Then they'll arrange failures, situations designed to make me look incompetent. Eventually they'll force a vote of no confidence. I've seen it happen to other leaders who didn't conform." "So you give up? Choose someone you don't want and spend the rest of your life unhappy?" "I choose survival," she snapped. "I choose to continue leading, to keep making changes where I can, even if I can't have everything I want." "That's not surviving. That's surrendering." She whirled on him, and for a second he saw the warrior who'd killed 3 challengers. "What would you have me do? Start a civil war over the right to court a human? Tear the Empire apart because I'm lonely?" "No," Do-Yun said calmly. "I'd have you remember why you brought me here in the first place. You wanted someone who saw you differently, someone who could help you think beyond traditions. So let me help. There must be something in your laws, some precedent, some possibility. Velrisa sank onto her bench. The anger drained from her, leaving only exhaustion. There is one thing, an ancient tradition, the trial of worth. Tell me, if a queen wishes to choose a mate outside the noble houses, outside the accepted parameters, they can issue a challenge. The potential mate must complete 3 trials designed to test the qualities the queen values most. If they succeed, the union is accepted by law. No noble house can refuse it. Then that's what we do. You don't understand. The trials are meant to be impossible. They're designed to prove that no outsider could truly be worthy. In all of recorded history, only 7 challengers have ever succeeded. Hundreds have tried. Most died. What are the trials? She looked at him with those golden eyes, and he saw fear there. Fear for him. They're different for each queen, tailored to what she believes matters. I would have to design them myself, and they would be reviewed by the Noble Council to ensure they're truly challenging. Design trials that test what you actually value, Do-hyun said, not strength or combat ability. Things I might actually be good at. Even if I do, even if you somehow succeed, they'll make your life hell afterward. You'll be under constant scrutiny. Any mistake will be magnified. They'll be waiting for you to fail so they can use it against me. I know. He sat beside her. But isn't that better than giving up now? At least we tried. At least we showed them that their traditions don't have to be chains. She took his hand in hers. Her grip was strong enough to hurt, but she held him gently. I should tell you to go. To save yourself. To find someone of your own species who won't bring you this much trouble. You should, he agreed, but you won't. No, she said quietly. I won't, because I'm selfish enough to want you here, even knowing the cost. She squeezed his hand. If we do this, if we attempt the trials, you need to understand. I can't help you during them. I'll be watching, but I can't interfere. You'll be completely alone. I won't be alone, Do-hyun said. I'll have the knowledge that you're waiting on the other side. That's more than enough. She pulled him close, and he rested against her, feeling the warmth of her, the strength. Tomorrow they would begin preparing. Tomorrow the real fight would start. But tonight, they had this moment. A queen and a craftsman choosing to fight for something impossible. Because sometimes, the impossible was the only thing worth fighting for. The announcement came 3 days later. Queen Admiral Velrisa formally declared her intention to invoke the Trial of Worth. The human Do-hyun would be her chosen challenger. The Noble Council would review and approve the trials. The ceremony would take place in 2 weeks aboard the flagship. The human quarters exploded with reactions. Are you insane? One of the engineers shouted at Do-hyun. You're going to get yourself killed over an alien you barely know. He knows what he's doing, Ji-won said quietly. But even she looked worried. The other humans crowded around, asking questions, offering advice, expressing everything from admiration to horror. Do-hyun endured it all, answering what he could, deflecting what he couldn't. Finally, Ji-won pulled him aside. Tell me the truth, she said. Do you love her? The question caught him off guard. Love. He'd been thinking about duty, about standing by his choices, about not backing down. But love? He thought about Velrisa's smile, the way she listened when he talked, how she'd looked at him when she thought she was dying, how every moment with her felt like discovering something new. Yes, he said. I think I do. Then I'll help you however I can, Ji-won said, even if I think you're both crazy. The trials themselves were revealed in a formal transmission. High Lord Cramvex appeared again, his hologram filling the assembly hall. Velrisa stood beside the projection, her face carefully neutral. The Queen Admiral has designed 3 trials, Kramvex announced. They have been reviewed and approved by the Council. We have determined they are appropriately challenging and fair. Fair? Someone muttered behind Do-hyun. They'll be designed to kill him. The first trial, Kramvex continued, tests creation. The challenger must craft an object that represents the union of 2 different species. It must be functional, artistic, and meaningful. He will have access to materials and tools, but no assistance. He has 1 full day. Do-hyun felt a small relief. That was something he understood. Working with metal, creating something meaningful, he could do that. The second trial tests wisdom and empathy. The challenger will be presented with a dispute between 2 factions of our warrior caste, a real dispute, not a simulation. He must mediate it to a resolution both sides accept. This is a task that has defeated our most skilled diplomats. He has until the parties reject him or reach agreement. That was harder. Do-hyun knew nothing about Vralthi politics or warrior culture. But Velrisa valued empathy. She must believe he had something to offer there. The third trial tests courage and self-knowledge. The challenger will enter a neural simulation designed by our psychological specialists. It will confront him with his deepest fears and doubts. He must emerge whole, having faced what he most wishes to avoid. There is no time limit. He succeeds by emerging or fails by breaking. The hall was silent. The third trial was the one that killed people. Not physically, but mentally. Some challengers never woke up from the simulation, their minds trapped in loops of their own fears. These trials will commence in 14 days, Kramvex said. The human will have that time to prepare. We will be watching with great interest. The hologram vanished. Velrisa immediately left the hall. Do-hyun followed, ignoring the stairs. He found her in her workshop, a room he'd never seen before. It was filled with half-finished projects, weapons in various states of completion, armor pieces with new designs, a whole wall dedicated to sketches and plans. You create things, he said, surprised. I used to, before command consumed all my time. She didn't look at him, focusing on a blade she was sharpening. These trials, they're what I truly value, not strength or combat skill, creation, wisdom, courage, the things that make someone worth standing beside. You designed them for me to win. I designed them to test what matters. Whether you win depends entirely on you. She finally met his eyes. The third trial, the neural simulation. It will be the hardest thing you've ever faced. It finds what you most fear and makes it real. Some people face physical threats. Some face emotional ones. There's no way to prepare because you don't know what it will show you. What do you think I fear most? I don't know. That's the point. You might not even know yourself until you're in there. They spent the next 2 weeks preparing. For the first trial, Do-hyun sketched designs, practiced with different materials, tried to conceive of something that would truly represent unity between species. Velrisa watched, but didn't advise. She couldn't be seen helping him. For the second trial, she explained Vralthi social structures, the warrior caste's complex hierarchy, the honor codes that governed their interactions. But she couldn't tell him what the dispute would be. That would be revealed during the trial. For the third trial, there was nothing to do but wait. Jiwon found him the night before the trials began. She brought a bottle of human whiskey, smuggled aboard months ago. From all of us, she said, pouring 2 glasses. Whether you succeed or fail, you've already done something important. You've shown the Vralthi that humans don't back down, that we fight for what matters. They drank in silence for a while. Do you regret coming to space? Jiwon asked eventually. No. I found something here I never would have found on Earth. Purpose, connection, someone who sees me. Even if it kills you, even then. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. What's the point of surviving if you never really live? The morning of the first trial, Do-hyun was led to a workshop. It was enormous, filled with materials from a dozen different worlds: metals, crystals, organic compounds, energy sources. Tools lined the walls, some familiar, most alien. A timer on the wall showed 24 hours, the door sealed behind him. He walked among the materials, touching them, feeling their properties. What could represent unity? What would speak to both human and Vralthi sensibilities? An idea formed slowly. Armor was protection, but also identity. Humans wore armor differently than Vralthi. Humans decorated, personalized, made each piece unique. Vralthi valued uniformity, functionality. What if he combined both approaches? He began to work. Hours blurred together. He shaped metal using both his human techniques and the Vralthi methods he'd learned. He created a chest plate, smaller than Vralthi armor but larger than human scale, meant for neither species specifically, but adaptable to both. The base was Vralthi, functional and strong, but he added human elements, engravings that told a story. On one side, human symbols of creation, art, and exploration. On the other, Vralthi symbols of strength, honor, and duty. Where they met in the center, the symbols merged into something new. Neither purely human nor Vralthi, but a combination that respected both. He added articulated plates that could adjust for different body types, attachment points for various weapons from both cultures, a modular design that could be modified without losing structural integrity. It was a piece that said adaptation wasn't weakness. Flexibility was strength. With 2 hours remaining, he added the final touch, a crystal from the materials, set into the center of the chest plate. It caught light and refracted it into multiple colors, different perspectives creating something beautiful together. When the timer reached 0, the door opened. Velrisa entered, followed by several noble holograms. Do-hyun was exhausted, covered in metal dust and sweat, but the armor piece stood complete on its display stand. Kramvex's hologram circled it slowly. "Explain your creation." Do-hyun straightened. "This is adaptive armor. It represents the idea that unity doesn't mean erasure. The human elements and Vralthi elements remain distinct, but they work together. The modular design shows that different approaches can be accommodated without compromising strength. The central crystal represents how different perspectives, different lights, create something more beautiful than either alone." "It is weak," another noble said. "All these articulation points, they compromise integrity." "They allow for adaptation," Do-hyun countered. "A rigid structure breaks under unexpected stress. This armor flexes, adjusts, survives what purely rigid armor cannot." Velrisa picked up the piece. She turned it, examining every angle. Do-hyun tried to read her expression, but couldn't. "It's beautiful," she said finally, "and functional. It embodies exactly what I asked for." The nobles conferred quietly. Finally, Kramvex spoke. "The first trial is past. The challenger has proven he understands creation that bridges differences." Do-hyun nearly collapsed with relief. 1 down, 2 to go. The second trial began immediately. He was taken to a meeting room where 2 warriors waited. They were both scarred veterans, clearly rivals. The tension between them was palpable. Commander Thralvin explained the situation. "These warriors both claim right to the same battle honor. They were part of the same engagement, and both struck killing blows on enemy leaders simultaneously. Only one can claim the honor in official records. They have been arguing for 3 months. Multiple mediators have failed. Resolve this dispute, human." The warriors glared at each other, then at Do-hyun. He was a human, an outsider, and he was supposed to resolve a matter of Vralthi honor? It seemed impossible. He sat down. "Tell me about the battle." They did, speaking over each other. arguing about who moved first, who struck true, who deserved recognition. Do-hyun listened for over an hour, letting them talk. He noticed something. When they weren't arguing about credit, when they described the battle itself, there was respect in their voices for each other, pride in what they'd accomplished together. "You both struck at the same moment," Do-hyun said finally. "Both your blows were fatal. Neither of you would have succeeded alone because you were covering each other's approach. You functioned as a unit, not as individuals." "Honor is individual," one warrior said. "It cannot be shared." "Why not?" Do-hyun asked. "Humans have a concept called partnership honors. When two soldiers achieve something together that neither could have done alone, both receive equal recognition. It doesn't diminish either. It celebrates the power of cooperation." "That is not our way," the other warrior said. "But could it be?" Do-hyun leaned forward. "You both know you fought well. You both know you deserve recognition. Why destroy your respect for each other over who gets credited in a record book? Why not be remembered as the warriors who were so effective together that even the record keepers couldn't determine who struck first? That's a better story than two rivals who let honor destroy their friendship." The warriors looked at each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, simultaneously, they began to laugh. It was a harsh sound, but genuine. "Partnership honor," one said. "The human has a clever tongue." "It is acceptable," the other agreed. "We will share the recognition." "Equally." Thralven looked shocked. The nobles' holograms murmured among themselves. Velrisa was smiling. "The second trial is past," Kramvex announced. "The challenger has shown wisdom beyond his years and culture. 2 down, 1 to go." The third trial would begin the next day. Do-hyun had one night to prepare for something he couldn't prepare for. One night to rest before facing his deepest fears. Velrisa came to him that evening. They sat together in her quarters, not speaking, just being present. Finally, she broke the silence. "Whatever you see tomorrow, remember it's not real. It's your mind showing you what it fears. You can overcome it." "What if I can't?" "Then I will wait," she said firmly. "However long it takes for you to wake up. I will be there." "Even if I don't wake up?" She pulled him close. "Especially then." The neural chamber was small and white. A single chair sat in the center, wires hanging from the ceiling like vines. Vralti technicians moved around Do-hyun, attaching sensors to his head, his chest, his arms. The devices were cold against his skin. "The simulation will feel completely real," one technician explained. "Your body will remain here, but your mind will experience whatever the program generates. There is no time limit. You exit when you overcome what you face, or when your mind breaks trying." "How many people have broken?" Do-hyun asked. The technician hesitated. 37 challengers have attempted the neural trial over the past 5 centuries. 19 succeeded. 18 remain in supervised care facilities, their minds unable to fully return to reality. Nearly 50% failure rate. Do-hyun's hands were shaking. Velrisa stood in the doorway. She couldn't enter the chamber during the trial, but she could watch. Their eyes met. She touched her hand to her heart, a Vraltai gesture of support. He mirrored it. "Beginning simulation," the technician said. The world dissolved. Do-hyun opened his eyes in his old workshop on Earth. Sunlight streamed through familiar windows. The smell of metal and oil filled his nose. Everything was exactly as he remembered it. For a moment, joy filled him. He was home. Then he noticed the door. It was sealed, welded shut from the outside. He tried the windows, solid, unbreakable. He was trapped in the place he'd always felt safest, but now it was a prison. Days passed, though he couldn't tell if it was real time or simulated. His supplies ran out, water, food, everything. He grew weaker. He understood then. This was his fear, being trapped, being unable to grow or move forward, being stuck in the familiar until it killed him. His old life had been comfortable, but it was also limiting. Coming to space had been his escape. Now the simulation was showing him what would have happened if he'd stayed. Slow death by stagnation. But it was just a simulation. He knew that. The workshop wasn't real. The hunger wasn't real. The fear was, but the situation wasn't. He sat in the center of the workshop and closed his eyes. "I choose to move forward," he said aloud. "This comfort was killing me. I left for a reason." The workshop vanished. He stood on the bridge of the Crimson Talon. But everything was wrong. The crew was dead. Bodies everywhere. And standing among them was Velrisa, her armor shattered. Blood covering her. She looked at him with those golden eyes. But they were cold now, accusing. "This is your fault," she said. "I chose you, and it destroyed me. The nobles were right. You were too weak, too small, too human. Look what your inadequacy cost." The words cut deeper than any blade. This was his real fear. Not his own death or failure, but causing hers. Being the reason she lost everything. Dragging her down with his insufficiency. "You're not her," Do-Yun said, though his voice shook. "Velrisa would never say these things." "Wouldn't I?" The simulation shifted. Suddenly it was the real Velrisa, or close enough. "Every day I defend my choice to the nobles. Every day I fight to maintain my position because of you. Tell me honestly, human, are you worth it? Are you worth watching me struggle and fight and lose respect? Are you worth the price I'm paying?" He wanted to say yes, wanted to be confident. But the doubt was there, had always been there. He was just a craftsman. Just a human from a minor planet. What could he possibly offer a queen? "I don't know," he said finally, honestly. "I don't know if I'm worth it. But that's not my decision to make. Velrisa chose me. She decided I was worth the fight. Who am I to tell her she's wrong about her own choices?" The simulation flickered. "You would let her sacrifice everything for you?" "No. I would stand beside her while she fights for what she believes in. There's a difference. She's not fighting for me. She's fighting for the right to choose her own path. I just happen to be part of that path." Pretty words. But can you actually help her? Or will you just be dead weight? "I've already helped her," Do-Yun said, strength returning to his voice. "I've shown her that thinking differently has value. I've given her ideas she wouldn't have had alone. I've been there when she needed someone who saw past her armor. That has worth. Maybe not the worth her people recognize, but it matters." The false Velrisa stepped closer. "And when the nobles destroy her anyway, when your presence causes her to lose her position, her power, everything she's worked for, will you be able to live with that? If that happens, I'll help her build something new. Because Velrisa is more than her rank. She's brilliant and creative and strong. She doesn't need the title of Queen Admiral to be worthy. She just needs the freedom to be herself." The simulation shattered like glass. Do-Yun fell, or felt like he was falling, through darkness. Then he was somewhere else entirely. A room full of mirrors. Each one showed a different version of himself. All the choices he didn't make. The version who stayed on Earth, successful but unfulfilled. The version who rejected Velrisa's friendship, safe but alone. The version who ran when things got difficult, cowardly but alive. And in the center, the current Do-Yun, scared, uncertain, but still standing. "Which one is right?" a voice asked. It was his own voice echoing from everywhere. "Which choice should you have made?" "All of them were right for that moment," Do-Yun said. "I'm not wrong for choosing this path. Each choice leads somewhere different. I chose adventure and risk and love. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe I'll get hurt. But at least I'll have tried." "You could still choose differently," the voice tempted. "Wake up. Tell them you can't do it. Go back to Earth. Find a normal life with a human partner. Be safe. I could, Do-hyun agreed. But I won't, because I've found something worth the risk. Not just Velrisa, though she's part of it, but the chance to help bridge two species, to show that different doesn't mean incompatible, to prove that love can exist across boundaries everyone says are absolute. You'll fail, the voice said. Humans and Vralthi are too different. Maybe, but maybe we're not. Maybe underneath the different biology and culture, we all want the same things. Connection, understanding, someone who sees us for who we truly are. That's not a human need or a Vralthi need. That's just being alive and aware. The mirrors exploded. Light everywhere, blinding and pure, then darkness, then nothing. Do-hyun opened his eyes. He was back in the white room, the neural chair. Sensors were being removed from his head. He felt exhausted, wrung out, but whole. He'd made it through. Velrisa was there immediately, dropping to her knees beside the chair. She grabbed his hand with all four of hers. "You're back. You're really back." "How long?" he managed to ask. 6 hours, she said. 6 hours of watching your vitals spike and fall. 6 hours of not knowing if you'd wake up. The technicians were talking excitedly. The noble holograms appeared. Kramvex studied Do-hyun with something that might have been respect. "The neural records show you confronted multiple manifestations of fear," the High Lord said. "Physical, emotional, existential. You overcame each one not through force or denial, but through acceptance and understanding. This is impressive for any species." "The third trial is past," Velrisa announced, her voice ringing with authority and barely suppressed joy. "All 3 trials are complete. The challenger has proven his worth by every measure we set." "So he has," Kramvex said. There was a long pause. "By ancient law, the union is approved. The human Do-hyun is recognized as the chosen consort of Queen Admiral Velrisa. May the ancestors guide you both." The holograms vanished. For a moment, the room was silent. Then the Vralthi technicians began to cheer. It was a harsh sound, like stone grinding. But it was celebration. News would spread through the ship within minutes, through the fleet within hours, through the Empire within days. A human had passed the trial of worth. History had been made. Velrisa helped Do-hyun stand. His legs were weak, but he managed. They walked together from the chamber, and the crew they passed stopped to watch. Some bowed, some saluted. A few still looked hostile, but most showed respect. In her quarters, finally alone, Velrisa removed her armor piece by piece. Not for repair this time, not for ceremony, just to be herself. She stood before him in simple clothing, vulnerable in a way she rarely allowed herself to be. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "We did it," Do-hyun corrected. "You designed trials that tested what actually mattered. You chose to fight tradition. You trusted me." "I was terrified the whole time, especially the neural trial. If you'd broken, if your mind hadn't survived, I would have—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "But I did survive. We both did. Now what?" She smiled, and it transformed her face from warrior queen to simply Velrisa. "Now we figure out what comes next. Together." Over the following weeks, things changed aboard the Crimson Talon. The human contingent was given more responsibilities, more respect. Other ships in the fleet began requesting human advisors, interested in their perspectives. The Empire hadn't transformed overnight, but a crack had appeared in centuries of rigid tradition. Do-hyun continued his work, but now he also attended strategy meetings. His insights, coming from a completely different cultural framework, often highlighted solutions the Vralthi had missed. He taught interested warriors about human approaches to problem-solving. Created fusion designs that combined the best of both species' techniques. Ji-won was promoted to lead medical officer, overseeing both human and Vralthi staff. She'd proven during the trials that humans could handle pressure and complexity. Other humans found their roles expanding similarly, but the real change was quieter, personal. In the evenings, Do-hyun and Velrisa would sit together in her quarters. Sometimes they worked on projects. Sometimes they just talked. She taught him Vralthi combat forms, and he taught her human meditation techniques. He showed her earth music, and she shared Vralthi poetry. They learned each other's languages properly, beyond what the translation devices provided. The subtle meanings, the cultural contexts, all the tiny details that made communication deeper. 3 months after the trials, Velrisa called Do-hyun to her quarters with unusual formality. When he arrived, she was wearing ceremonial armor he'd never seen before, ancient, judging by the style, and she was nervous, which was rare. "I need to ask you something," she said. "In Vralthi culture, we have a bonding ritual, more permanent than your human marriage, but similar in intent. It's a promise to stand together through whatever comes, to choose each other above all others until death and beyond." Do-hyun's heart raced. "Are you asking what I think you're asking?" "I want to bond with you," she said. "Formally, permanently. I want the Empire to know that you are not just my chosen mate, but my true partner. That your voice carries my authority. That harming you is harming me. That's a lot of responsibility. It is, and it comes with danger. There are still those who oppose us, who will try to use you against me, who see our union as weakness rather than strength. But I'm tired of half measures. I'm tired of protecting myself from connection. I want to choose you, completely and officially, if you'll have me." Do-hyun moved to stand before her. Even after all this time, he still had to tilt his head back to meet her eyes. "I have a question, too. Ask it. In human culture, when someone proposes, they're supposed to know what the other person wants, what they dream about, what would make them happy beyond just being together." He took her hands in his. "So tell me, Velrisa, what do you want? Not as a queen, not as an admiral, as a person. What would make you happiest?" She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "I want to create things again, beautiful things that serve no tactical purpose. I want time to explore ideas without worrying if they'll make me look weak. I want to wake up next to someone who knows me, truly knows me, and chooses me anyway. I want to feel less alone." "Then I have a proposal too," Do-hyun said. "Let's make that happen. Yes, we'll bond in your tradition. Yes, I'll be your partner in leading. But we'll also make time for the rest, for creation and exploration and just being together. No matter how busy the universe makes us, we protect that time." "A practical proposal and a romantic one," Velrisa said. "Very human. Is that a yes?" She laughed, that beautiful sound he'd grown to love. "Yes. To all of it. The bonding, the partnership, the time together. Yes." The bonding ceremony was held 2 weeks later. It was smaller than the Trial of Worth, but no less significant. The Noble Council attended, some reluctantly. Commander Thralvin stood as witness, and Do-hyun was surprised to see approval in the warrior's eyes. Ji-won represented the human contingent, beaming with pride. Velrisa and Do-hyun stood before the assembled witnesses and exchanged vows in both Vralthi and human languages. They mixed traditions, creating something new. When it was done, when they were officially bonded, Velrisa did something unprecedented. She removed her helmet in front of everyone, lowered herself to Do-hyun's height, and kissed him in the human fashion. The assembled Vralthi didn't know how to react. It wasn't their custom, but slowly, led by Thralvin, they began to strike their weapons against their armor in rhythmic approval. The human contingent cheered, and somewhere in the mix of sounds, a new tradition was born. That night, alone in quarters that were now truly theirs, Velrisa asked Do-hyun a final question. "Teach me," she said, "how humans show love, how they court and romance and express affection. I want to know all of it, your traditions, your customs. I've spent so long being Vralti. I want to learn what it means to be part of your world, too." Do-hyun smiled and pulled her close. "It's going to take a while. Humans have been figuring out love for thousands of years, and we still get confused." "We have time," she said. "We have all the time we need." And so they began. A queen and a craftsman, a warrior and an artist. Two people from different worlds who'd chosen each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. They would face challenges ahead. The political maneuvering wouldn't stop. Some would always see their union as weakness, but they would face it together, because in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the titles or the trials or the opinions of others. Just two people who saw each other truly and chose to stand together. The universe was vast and often cold, but in their shared quarters, in their quiet moments, in the life they were building together, there was warmth, understanding, love that crossed the boundaries of species and culture. And that, Do-hyun thought as Velrisa rested against him, was worth every risk, every fear, every challenge. It was worth everything.